Hello, my darlings. It's Kezzy here with Kezzy Arts. Back at it again. I am going to teach you today how to paint a realistic eyeball. Now, if you're wondering why I have face paint on my face, it's because I like to go live on TikTok and paint my face and do an upside down portrait. Like this, while I do a live. And I just got done doing that. I'm going to teach you to paint this beautiful picture right here today. So stay tuned. First, I'm just going to start off drawing a rough shape of an eye, which kind of looks like a lemon. That's a good shape to go off of. I'm going to draw the iris. And also, this is something I can't stress enough. Don't be afraid to make mistakes and to erase things if you don't like it. As you can see, I have erased things a couple times. Right here, I'm drawing a highlight around the pupil. And I decided I didn't like the pupil, so I went ahead and changed it. And did it a little differently, a little more centered. There's the eye crease. Now I'm going to draw a highlight in the tear duct. Because with watercolor, you want to make sure that you are leaving highlights. Now I'm going to get some yellow ochre and some crimson red and mix them together quite a bit, and some brown and black. Make a darker color of it for the shadows, and I'm going to get some white and mix it in for the highlights. Or not the highlights, just the lighter skin tones. I'm going to go ahead and start painting around the eye. And feel free to pause the video at any point you need to catch up. I'm taking some water and I'm just smoothing out those edges and blending them together. And remember, watercolor, you work in layers. So this is just my underpainting. This is just a beginning layer. So it's going to take a few layers in between them drying to build up the color that you really want. And once again, I just keep wetting my brush, washing it off, and smoothing out those edges. I'm coming back in with some shadow color. I'm going to add a little bit of darkness to this while it's wet. I'm going to let it dry. I'm adding some more black to it for the eyelid crease. That is going to end up being very dark in the end. Once again, just blend those colors together. I just keep mixing more black in to get a darker color of the skin tone. Painting that bottom eyelid and putting some texture, some wrinkles into it. Just keep making layers to get that dark color that we're wanting. And blend it out when you put your paint down. Now I'm going to paint the outside of the iris right on the outside of the line that I made. So I'm not painting on the line, I am painting on the outside because if you look at a blue pupil, you will see that it kind of glows blue into the sclera, which is the white part of our eye, just on the outside of the pupil. Now I'm making sure to leave a highlight between the upper eyelid and the iris itself. Now I'm coming in with some dark blue, purple, and emerald green mixed together, and I'm just doing an outline color to begin my underpainting for the iris. As you can see, I'm making squiggly lines going towards the pupil, and I also picked up some yellow ochre for an inside ring around the pupil, and a little bit of that dark shadow skin tone. I'm going to be making lines into the pupil, and that's okay because we're just going to paint over them later, so don't be afraid that they're going over your drawing. Don't make perfect lines, just make kind of squiggly lines. Now I got some more of that emerald green color, and I mixed it with my yellow ochre to give it a nice ombre effect. And I'm just blending it out with water. You also want to leave some highlights so that it's not all just one mass of color. As you can see, I'm added a little more purple and black to my blue mixture, and I'm going to go back in and paint that dark line and redefine it around the iris. All of my lines are going towards the pupil, so they change direction as they go around. And I just continue to make those squiggly lines to give it good texture. Adding some more of that green. I just keep blending it and adding layers. If I see a spot that I don't quite like, then I go back and I add more color. Don't forget to leave highlights, not just solid color. It's better to have more highlights that you can work with than less highlights, because you can always go back and add more color, but you can't go back and add more highlights. I'm just adding some of that raw sienna color and more of that green. And I'm going to go right around that pupil with the green, which is the yellow ochre and the emerald green mixture. Now I'm going to go back and redefine some of those squiggly lines that I made earlier. I'm not actually sure what those are called in the iris themselves, but I know all eyes have them and they're very pretty. So it's kind of like a sun. That's how I like to think about the pupil. It has all these lines heading out away from it like sun rays. So I'm just going to take some dark black and paint the whole pupil in now. Also, I am now grabbing sky blue, and I'm just going to go back over that line on the very outside of the iris, and right into the highlight I'm going to make some vertical lines. I'm not going to fill the entire highlight in. I'm going to leave spaces of white and darken the blue a little bit with some of that shadow color I made. Now I'm going to use some white in that shadow color and come back and paint the highlight of the eye. I'm using some yellow ochre and white right there in the highlight. Now I'm going back and making a gray tone. It's going to go around the pupil as a little shadow right underneath the highlight.
And then I realized I wanted to put a little bit of a tree shape in the highlight, as if it was reflecting a tree in the background of the eye. Now I'm going to make some eyelashes, and pay attention to the way these eyelashes swoop down into the highlight. They all go different ways, and they're not all the same shape or size, and they all kind of swoop towards the left, because that's the way the eye is looking. And now I am taking some more of my black and moving it back into that shadow color and just giving it a little more depth around the eyelashes and in the eyelashes. I'm just adding a little bit. I'm not adding it to every single one because I want contrast. So now I'm going to take some sky blue and black and white and make a mixture for the shadow of the sclera, which is the white part on the eye. And if you look at an eye, you realize it is not actually white. There are veins, there is shadow, there's a little bit of pink in there. So that's what I'm doing now, is I'm just adding that eyeball color, and I'm going to put a shadow around the sclera on the outside so you can see where that shadow is, where the eye is, and it's going to make the eyeball look round. Now I'm adding some magenta to that skin color from earlier, and I'm going to be painting around the lacrimal caruncle. I'm not exactly sure how to pronounce that part of the eye, but I'm also using a little bit of black in there too to make a shadow color. And once again, I'm making dots throughout the highlight on the bottom of the iris right there. And I'm just going to use my different colors to fill that in. There's going to be lights and darks. So just pay attention to where I put them and pause as you need to. I am doing a few little veins through the eye to give it some more depth. And I darkened up that top eyelid. You couldn't see because I had to turn my camera off for a second. I was running out of video time to record with, so I just darkened that upper eyelid. As you can see, I'm still darkening it. Going back in with some raw umber underneath that first initial dark shadow, and I'm just shading and fading it out into itself. Now I'm going to make a triangle right here, because if you look in the edge of your eye, you will see that there is a triangle shape that leads into your lacrimal papilla, which is actually that line between your eyelash line and your sclera, which is the white part of your eye. So now I'm just going to take those darker shades of brown that I created. I'm going to make some texture around the eyelid and some shadow around the eyelash line to give it more depth. And like I said, you just got to keep working in layers. Just keep defining those shadows and bringing in more and more dark. Now I'm going to use that dark shadow color I made with the raw umber and the black, and I'm going to make some eyelashes. Now look at how I swoop them underneath that top eyelid. They're kind of like an upside down rainbow. And as you can see, as I move towards the middle, they are actually going to go more on top of that rim around the eyelid. And they will get shorter because of foreshortening. And then they will start to change direction and get slightly longer, but still stay pretty short. And that is the bottom layer of the eyelashes that you're going to see. And here in a second, I'm going to add a little more black to that raw umber color that I created. And I'm going to add some eyelashes to the upper line of the eyelash line going straight up. They're going to be curved, And towards the middle, they're going to be more straight up and down, still curved like a rainbow. And as you go around the eye, they are going to change direction. So just look at your reference, whatever reference you are using, whether it's my eye or not, and pay attention to where your eyelashes are going. It's really important to make sure that you're going in the right direction when it comes to hair of any sort, because that is what gives realism its shape and makes it look realistic. With each additional layer, I'm going to be adding a little more darkness to it. So I'm going to add more and more black till I get my desired effect. You don't want to add too many eyelashes. You don't want to overpower it. You still want to be able to see the skin through the gaps of the eyelashes. They all start from different places, which makes it look more organic. Coming in with that real dark black now. And just giving it some more depth. More and more layers. Now I'm going to start painting the bottom eyelashes as well on the bottom of that lacrimal pupilla area, that eyelash line. I'm going to start with a few lashes going out, and if you can see, they'll start at different spots, but then they'll taper down into the same area. So it'll end up looking like a bent teardrop shape. Just make sure that they start wide and taper down to a point where they're not touching and then they are touching. And as you go around, they're going to change direction and become shorter again. And next to your tear duct, they will be going upwards instead of down. Now I'm going to take my black and brown mixture and redefine some of these tops and the bottoms. Just the top and bottom lash, not the middle of the lash, to make it look more rounded and a little bit thicker at the top and a little bit thicker at the bottom. And I'm just going to add a few more eyelashes up top and make it look a little more organic, a little darker. And don't forget to sign your name when you are done and satisfied. If you're not satisfied, then you can always go back and change something you don't like. I like to add the date next to my name too, the year, so I can remember when it was painted. And look at this, we did it, we painted an eye. Good job. So thank you for painting with me. I hope you have a beautiful day, and don't forget to like and subscribe to this video. It really helps out the YouTube algorithm find me, so thanks. Happy painting, happy art making. Till next time, bye.